sports talk and entertainment. People have requested the old intro. Why? I got no freaking clue. But you know what? I like, when someone asks me to do it, I'll do it. Just makes it easier that way. Hope everyone's having a great Sunday. OTAs coming up for the Giants. Very excited. Saying he's going to get some guys in camp, see what's going on, see what, just get a little bit of a feel, getting closer to, to real football. And every practice, every OTA, every training camp, everything else is one step closer to the start of the season. And that's what we're all waiting here for, Giant fans, is that start of the season. Now, I want to talk about a topic of mine, and most people are going to be like, you're going to bash Daniel Jones again. I don't know, I'm not watching this video. Okay, before you say that, relax. I'm not bashing Daniel Jones. I don't bash him. I speak the truth, but I don't bash him. But I wanted to talk about how it is so much easier for the fans to blame or find fault in Jason Garrett than it is to blame Daniel Jones. Now, there's always the conception of the fact that, of course, we drafted Daniel Jones. Dave Gettleman went out and found him or went out and got him. And Jason Garrett, of course, was coach of the Cowboys, even though he was a quarterback. He did play quarterback for the Giants for a couple of years. But he is the vaunted evil Cowboy coach, the clapper. We hate him. We hate him because he claps, which is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. It really is. If you're going to find something wrong with a guy, can you find something else besides him clapping? But it's easier, and I think it's more comforting for Giant fans to place the blame for Daniel Jones' fault on Jason Garrett because of the fact that if we didn't do that, we might have to look in the mirror and say, well, maybe Daniel Jones isn't the guy. And that's okay if he's not the guy. There's plenty of teams that draft quarterbacks that don't turn out to be the guy. But if you take a look at the 2020 season, it's interesting. There's an interesting dichotomy about it. There's a breakdown of the season if you take a look at it. And a lot of people blame the ineptitude of the Giants offense squarely at Jason Garrett because he's calling the plays. And it's never Daniel Jones' fault. And I've said this a million times. All the excuses that you make for Daniel Jones, those same excuses need to be moved over or parlayed over to Jason Garrett because he has the same players. He's got the same line. He's got the same receivers. He's got everything that Daniel Jones has. But I think what happened in 2020 was we moved forward into a realm where we thought we could make the playoffs. So what we did was we went in kind of the proverbial offensive tank for Daniel Jones because I don't think the coaching staff, and I think it goes all the way up to Joe Judge, did not have the full confidence during the middle and towards the end of the season that they, in Daniel Jones. And again, like I said, because he wasn't playing well. If you take a look at early on the season when we, started off so poorly, take a look at Daniel Jones' game. His first game against the Pittsburgh, which was a loss, he was 26 of 41, 279, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And then you go down to the Chicago game, 25 of 40 for 240. And we had just an interception and of course, then a fumble. And then you go to the San Francisco game, a 36-9 blowout. I love when people go, well, that game was closer. 17 to 32, 53% of his passes completed, 179 yards. Once again, a fumble and an interception. And then you get into the Rams game, 23 of 36, 190. Again, an interception and another fumble. So there was a pattern early on. Then you thought he might have been turning the corner at the Dallas game when we were 34-37 loss. But if you look at the game, he only completed 22 of 33 for 222 yards. And again, another fumble. And then when we finally got the win at Washington, you would think it was his big come-out game. No, 12 for 19, 63% of his passes, 112 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And, of course, another fumble. And that's kind of where, then we went to, we thought we had the momentum after the Washington game. And then we jumped into Philadelphia. And again, 20 of 30, 66% of his passes, 187 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. And again, another fumble. So there's a pattern if you haven't seen it. And then we're not even going to get into the Tampa game. But then there's a pattern. And then we start winning in the Washington game. And you thought that was a turnaround, 23-34. But again, for only 212 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 fumbles. And then the Philly game, 21-28, 244. But he didn't fumble. At least he didn't fumble. But the game plan throughout this entire season with Jason Garrett seemed to be in a shell. Jason Garrett's offense, even going back to when he was a coordinator, was more of, like I said, more of the motion Air Coryell style offense. He didn't really, like I said, he hadn't called plays in almost 8-9 years. But he had the ability to move the ball down the field. And everyone's going to point to the line, Daniel Jones didn't have time to throw. Well, and again, like I said, if you take a look at the Pro Football Focus statistics, Daniel Jones held on to the ball the 4th longest in the entire NFL. If you have such a porous line, you can't keep holding on to the ball, because I've said this a million times. It's his, and I think his biggest inability is his decision-making process after the first read. He doesn't react fast enough. And everyone says, well, he's so good in the play-action pass. Well, the problem with the play-action pass is the play-action pass is designed to freeze the defense and have the quarterback go to his first option, which is why Daniel Jones is so good at that, because he's a first-rate quarterback. And I've said that a million times. And you're hoping he's going to progress. What I think happened in 2020 is the coaching staff made a decision during that winning streak to kind of go in the proverbial offensive tank. Win with defense and put Daniel Jones in a position for us not to lose the games. And it reflects in his statistics. Even look at the Cincinnati game, 16-27, 213 yards. He really did not have any breakout games. What a lot of people neglect is he didn't throw for 300 yards anytime this season. He only had, if you take a look at it, let's see here. He only had two games where he threw a touchdown without an interception. He did have 4 games where he did not throw an interception or a touchdown. So I guess that's not creating a turnover. But they didn't put the ball in his hands to win. They didn't say, okay, Daniel Jones, you are going to go out there and you're going to chuck the rock 40 times and I want you going deep. And I think what happened was the game plan was simplified because he just was not having a good season. And it was simplified for him so he could have the ability not to make the big mistake, especially after week 9, this really started happening. And I laugh though, because, and I know you, like I said, you can be enthralled with Daniel Jones. That's fine. But if you look at his statistical breakdown of the season, I mean, he still threw the ball 448 times after even missing 2 games, or really 2.5 games. So he probably would have still thrown the ball for 500 times. And he's only completed, the highest percentage of completions he's had is 62% over his 2 years for the season. So it's not like he is this overly accurate quarterback that everyone projects him to be. So I think just what happened was, like I said, the offense was tailored more to have Daniel Jones not lose the game because of the fact that we were so consistently good on defense. So what does the fan base do? And when they see this, they initially just turn around and blame Jason Garrett. If Jason Garrett was such at fault for what happened, I think we see what Joe Judge does. If he's such at fault and they think he's such his fault, they would have fired him. But I think this was a concerted effort by the entire coaching staff to have Daniel Jones in a place, like I said, where he will not be the person that loses the game. And that's a bad way. And that's, in a lot of ways, that's a bad way to quarterback. Now, I don't blame Daniel Jones for it because of the fact that, it's just, that was the decision of the coaching staff. But I think as fans, we need to be smart enough to realize and understand Daniel Jones's limitations and how it doesn't always fall square onto the coaching staff. It is easier to blame Jason Garrett because then if we don't blame Jason Garrett, we have to admit we made a mistake with Daniel Jones. And a lot of people, a lot of fans aren't up to doing that yet. And you hope the young man turns the corner in 2021. You hope he plays better. You hope he's somewhere between where he was his first season and his second season, because if our defense is as good as we all think it's going to be, it's going to come down to his shoulders, and they're going to open up the playbook. So he's going to have to complete better than 60-something% of his passes for the Giants to succeed. So let's not always blame Jason Garrett. Let's not completely blame Daniel Jones. Let's understand it is a concerted effort by both. And again, this is Tim with the Online Big Blue. We're bringing you the best in New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. And as always, if you like, subscribe, ring that bell notification, that'd be awesome.